Whisper Creek Studios.
Before we get started, I wanted to welcome you back to part 2 of my conversation with Danny G. Now, if you missed part 1, you may wish to go back and watch that first because it will make a little more sense to you if you do. So I appreciate you joining in with me on this special 2-part interview, our very first interview and very first video podcast for Roots and Shadows. If you'd like to watch the conversation instead of listening to it, well, you can do that on Spotify and our YouTube channel. So thank you for being here, and let's jump right back into the conversation with Danny G.
No. And so all this together, there were some days I actually thought maybe I'm going off the deep end. I mean,
well, I can see why. I mean, you're seeing stuff and all the time. People calling, telling you you're going to be killed, and you had all this going on. So no doubt at one point, I remember reading in your book, and I won't talk too much about your book because we want the viewers to buy your book.
Oh, that's fine.
But I remember reading there that it took a toll on you physically.
Oh, yeah. They thought I was having a heart attack, rushed me to the hospital, and they gave me so much, what did they give? Nitroglycerin. They gave me so much I had a headache because it wasn't a heart attack. Mm-hmm. It was stress. Doctor said I needed to de-stress or do something like that.
But you were wide open. That was right in the middle. Right? I mean, you were doing all these interviews, running here, running there, fielding phone calls,
and never. I didn't feel like I ever slept well back then.
But I didn't. How could you with the thought of somebody's out to kill you?
Yeah, well, on top of that time, I figured I was going to live a lot longer. I hoped. Now I wouldn't worry about it as much. But one day at work, I had a call, a normal call, I thought, from a doctor in Kansas. He said, "Mr. Gordon," that always worries me when they start out like that, but he said, "I'm in contact with an alien named Paul, and he's looking at your hologram right now. So you find a place on your body that probably nobody in the world knows you got it and how it got there and everything else, and I'll tell you." I'm saying, I reckon one of my doctors is involved with this or something. Right, I didn't know he was a general practitioner. So he said, "Your right hand." I said, "No, sir, you must not know what you're doing. It wasn't my right hand, it's my left hand." And he said, "Oh, I reckon Paul's looking at your hologram backwards." I have a meningioma of the left wrist. When I played football, I had to wear a pad over there. It's been operated on, and they took out a large metal ball out of here. Mm-hmm. The doctor that operated on me in Roanoke, because I called and accused him of telling this guy, he had the exact inch. This was 72 staples. He had the exact inch how long it was.
Wow.
See, this when I was 6 years old, out playing in the grass, this showed up one day. Parents took me to Roanoke to Dr. Ropes, and my mother said he took an ink pen and drew around it and then held the radiation on it. Back then, radiation was supposed to stop something from growing,
Right, yeah.
Instead, it multiplied. I have too many blood vessels here, and to a knot of my arm.
Wow.
But it gets more interesting. I tried to call UVA and see what they found was in that little hard ball. It was in the palm of my hand.
Yeah.
We never got nothing like it.
So the specimen was gone, disappeared.
It never made it there.
Never made it there.
Well.
And that was in Roanoke. You had the surgery?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I went back there to see him, and he'd already closed his practice, and they said they had no file on me. What is this crap? I'm trying to figure out, this is my life.
Right.
This was operated on 1972. I knew when it was done. No record I was ever a patient down there.
Oh, wow.
So when the federal government came out with this notice, if you'd been tested with radiation treatment before it was found out that it would enlarge stuff, that I was owed a bunch of money. I said, all right. I filed my paperwork. They sent back and said the doctor had no record he ever saw me, so they thought it was a false claim and wouldn't pay me nothing.
Oh.
Because that was what they did. This guy was paid so much to experiment on his patients.
Right.
And that's what he was doing to me. And I had my parents as witnesses at the time. I had the surgery. And I mean...
But no record, no official record, so therefore...
He denied
it.
I mean, the doctor just flatly lied that he said he'd never seen me.
Huh. Strange, Danny.
Yes.
That's when you were 6, right? You say you were 6 years old when that's...
6 is when it showed up.
Yeah, so that was as a young kid. So you've had things in your life since from a young age, it sounds like it. And I guess as you got older and all this stuff going on, you probably thought back to all that stuff.
Well, if you put it all together, it don't make sense when you get right down to it.
Right.
You know, how would the doctor, I mean, he called me on the phone from Kansas City, and he actually later got debarred, kicked out of the doctor's, whatever it is, out in Kansas City because I read an article about him.
Yeah.
Yet
But how did he know? How did he know that?
To the inch.
Yeah.
I mean, see, that's the thing. If it's just UFOs, that's one thing. And I got 51 sightings, but it's always other little things, you know.
Just popped up throughout the years and just kind of like, what was that?
And so anymore, I do not know what's coming and where it's coming.
Wow. Well, back in the heart of all that, in the 87, 88, it was hot and heavy. Somehow, I missed it. I would have been 12 years old in 1987, 13. And, you know, I was kind of into things like that, like most kids are. But how? I guess because the news didn't travel. I could not remember that. But I do know that when I was researching this, that one explanation came out, and it just kind of calmed everybody down.
Tennessee Air National Guard.
Tennessee Air National Guard claimed that, or not even a commander, I think it was like a sergeant had talked to some newspaper reporter, maybe from the Washington Post or somewhere, and did an article, and that's when during the interview, that's what he said. Oh, we're refueling aircraft over there. That's what they're saying. So that kind of took it away from everybody, you know.
He did because people believed that. But I went to airports and watched refueling, and it wasn't nothing we were seeing. And finally, I got a hold of this guy. He recanted. He said, I just got carried away. He said, I shouldn't have said that. In fact, my CO had already jumped me about it. But, right. You know, it's too much almost like a quasi-government story.
Yeah.
Because, see, I had the Pentagon would call me almost every day and say, Danny, have you found out what it is yet? The Pentagon. And I'm thinking, I'm a little old radio guy in Southwest Virginia. Colonel Bud Rothgab. I put his name in the book.
Yeah.
And he called me on a daily basis, and he even told me one time, you might want to try the airship industries of balloons down in North Carolina, Elizabeth City, North Carolina. And so I called them. Well, we ain't been flying no blimps up there lately, and if we do, they're pretty obvious, you know, what we're flying.
Right.
So, but he gave me a tip to call them. Well, why don't you call them? You know? And so it's like a mystery that just keeps rolling and gathering because I get one thing explained. What about this other one here? There was a guy at the post office in Austinville that swore that Lizard Man chased his car and scratched it while he was doing 25 miles an hour. Lizard Man. This was during the UFO thing.
Yeah.
And, of course, he's supposed to be, you know, he's a government employee. He's supposed to be a little bit legitimate, you know.
Right. So, wow. And it's probably, like we talked about earlier, it's probably hard to figure out because people like to play tricks and jokes, you know. It probably was hard, but you've been in being in radio, you probably had some sort of idea of try to figure out who was being serious, who's not, like you say, checking out their background, who they were, where they're from.
Yeah, but plus, it's about 5% of UFO sightings have any reason to listen. There's 95% are not even close. Because I had people call and say, I saw a bunch of them last night.
Right.
And they were talking about stars. And so we even had a lady come from Roanoke who was a astronomy teacher down there at the college. Went to Roe Retreat Lake, and she showed us how you could spot the space station looking straight up over, and showed us how when a star comes out at night, it doesn't go just straight up. It works its way through the atmosphere. It looks like it's moving, and then it gets to its peak and stops. So we were going on just what we thought, and so we decided we'd get an expert, and she really opened my eyes to a lot of stuff.
So a lot of those sightings were probably stars. People were
We'll see,
reporting.
like Mars. If you're traveling a curvy road and Mars is bright, it looks like they're following you.
Yeah.
The car and the curves and all. And I never thought about that. And it does the same way sometimes with Mars, Jupiter. I had a state police dispatcher, supposed to be well schooled in observation, called me one night, it was after midnight, and said, I see your UFO, Danny. It's up here, and I'm watching him. I asked him where it was, and went and got my almanac, and it was planets.
Yeah.
You know, because almanac shows you where the planets are.
Right. Yeah.
He wasn't happy, but I mean.
Well, I mean, but you got that many people looking up, and then when you got that many people start looking to the skies, obviously they're going to start seeing things. Some of them probably were legitimate things, like the stars, aircraft, you know. And if you don't, I would have not known that about the stars. You told me that. You know, if you're sitting there and you see something appear, and everybody else is seeing UFOs, well, you're going, I just saw UFOs. So,
And if you look up and see the space station at that time, it looked like a mothership. I mean, it was a monster.
yeah.
But like, I'm going down by state police headquarters in Fort Chiswell one day about 6 o'clock in the morning. I looked over at McDonald's, and there was a radar plane, U.S. radar plane, over McDonald's with the big dome on top.
Right,
You know, what was it doing there? This was during the flap, and they couldn't give me an answer for that.
One question that one of my listeners wanted to ask, if I ever got the opportunity to ask you this, was it, so it was 1987, right? We're kind of still, the Cold War is still going on with Russia. And tensions are high. I mean, you know, you're hearing about nuclear war, this and that, Russians. I mean, movies are coming out where Russians are invading. You know, I mean, there's just all these things going on. And so did anybody ever think that maybe, was that theory ever kicked around that maybe this is some sort of Russian spy plane? Or
Well,
since you know,
I was told that what we saw in 1987, if it was military, it's been around for 20, 30 years. And that when they do all their testing and all and use that they have, and that was kind of outstanding. But the B-2 bomber that I saw over top of my car, a guy came here from Rhode Island, and he'd done a big, deep study on it. And he said he honestly believed that the B-2 that they rolled out to show everybody had been around for 30 years.
right.
You know, and so I don't know if you've ever read it. I've never read anywhere anybody claimed to have invented the drone. Who invented that? Wouldn't you think he'd take
Credit for it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody has said that's us.
Right.
Now we got the Ukrainians over there making all kind of drones that we don't even have. But
Yeah.
the guy, I don't know if you remember Gulf Breeze, Florida. They had a guy down there who was called Mr. Ed. And he claimed that he'd seen these things fly into his yard and sit down, take off and all. Come to find out, it was drones he was seeing then from the U.S. Navy because they had a test yard down there.
Oh, okay.
He got paid $10,000 to tell his story.
Well, when we captured Osama bin Laden, or not captured, when we eliminated Osama bin Laden, and that one of those Black Hawk helicopters crashed, well, nobody knew that the U.S. government had a stealth Black Hawk helicopter until it crashed. So, to your point, we don't know what
Yeah,
we know what the military has and what they have at their disposal. And just like the U-2 spy plane that was in Area 51. That's why the CIA built Area 51 was to this top secret U-2 program. And so we don't know what the government has. So, I'm sure that was an easy. Some of the people I've talked to, that was an easy explanation. Was when the government said it was us doing something, the Tennessee Air National Guard, or But you didn't. What you saw didn't correlate.
See, at the Pentagon, they told me it wasn't them.
So
they could have said,
right,
and say, "Danny, this is a defense matter. Please don't
just
talk anymore about it. Let it go." They never did that thing. Colonel Rothgab and the rest of those guys in the Pentagon would call me and say, "We're having a cup of coffee, and we want to know if you found out what it is yet." No,
but yet, as far as you know, they never came down and did their own sort of.
Oh, I had visitors who said they were with the CIA and the U.S. Air Force, and I had them all. And they'd say, "I'm retired," and they'd come to see my pictures because they wanted to know what I took pictures of.
Gotcha.
Because the picture I got is in the book is one that they broke in and stole a negative.
Yeah.
And it's 4 separate aircraft flying in formation.
Yeah.
And I don't know why they wanted that so bad. I didn't see nothing in it except it was obvious it was something besides a regular aircraft.
Well, we've been going at this for a while, so I want to kind of wrap it up here for you. But now, it's been nearly 40 years since you had the first call about UFOs. I guess next year will be a 40th anniversary of that. So now, after all these years, you've been speaking engagements, you've researched. I mean, you've in my eyes, you're an expert on UFOs and UAPs, just because you lived it firsthand and you've been around it. And I know what you believe because I read your book. Now, if you don't want to share that, that's okay. We can let people read your book. But what do do you want to share with people after 40 years what you really thought, what you thought really had went on back in 1987?
Yeah, what I believe now.
Yeah. Because let me rephrase that. Because you revised that book and you did an update revision in 2022. Was that right? Something like that?
No, that was about 24.
24. Okay.
Anyway,
so that's how when I say it's in the book, it wasn't in the book from 87. It's because you revised it recently. So,
well, think about this. Every day, thousands of people around the world disappear. Thousands. Never found their shoes, their hat, their coat, their car. They just disappear. Sasquatch is seen all around the world sometimes. It's got plenty of a heat signature, so heat cameras would show where they are, show where their nests are. That never occurred. They can't never get a picture of a Sasquatch because he's too quick.
Right.
I saw a panther out here, a black panther. It was probably 8 foot long and 400 pounds out here next to my mother and dad's house one Thanksgiving. It was too big to go through the drain pipe under the road.
Wow. And
they couldn't get through the fence. I called the town police, and time they got out there with animal control, it was gone. Now, where it went, I don't know, because it couldn't get through that area. We see all kind of UFOs, different sizes and shapes, which theoretically that should not make sense. If you got one flying saucer, why do you need 15 more different shapes and all?
Right.
And then in the 1800s, I think 1860s, they saw flying ships, flying boats like they had on the sea at that time. People in Texas saw it hover and the little guy climb out of the tree and he ended up dying down there, and they buried him down in Texas. There's a whole story on that. But so where'd all these people go, and why do they keep popping in and out? And why didn't we have a tremendously big saucer back in the 1800s? Why did we have it in the 1890s? There's nothing that makes cohesive sense. So when I got thinking about it, I still believe, and I really believed it early, that there was a parallel universe. And so in the parallel universe, it's just identical to ours, except it's more advanced. So if you're here and you get sucked or fall through the hole or something, you can't get back. If you're coming this way, like a flying saucer or Sasquatch, you can come over, sneak over or accidentally come over, and then you slip back before anybody can get you or see you or whatever. If you think about that, that's not anti-religious. It makes, to me, a lot of sense, because if they're slipping through that hologram, that area where they can go back and forth, we're seeing maybe advanced vehicles from the hologram, from the other part, another world, so to speak, that are coming here, maybe scouting or whatever, and go back.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that we lose so many people just disappear don't make good sense. I mean, if you just took off one night and didn't go home, there's all kind of ways to find you.
Right.
Especially with the technology, if you had it with you and all.
Right.
But we got people that disappear with all kind of technology and all kind of stuff. We had a guy here in town. His mother went to check on him, and his house was unlocked. His keys were in his car, and all his ID and everything was in the house, and he's gone. Now, where is he?
Right.
We had no report of abduction, no report of a man walking it by himself and walking off a cliff or something. So at some point, to me, you've got to look at that possibility.
Right.
Why can't we catch a UFO? Well, most times they outrun us. Well, I don't think that's the case. I've talked and interviewed with 3 or 4 astronauts. They all said they saw things up there outside of the capsule.
Yeah.
And they were shiny objects and all, and went off with a terrible rate of speed. But I think sometimes we look past something as being too hard to figure out. If there was another universe, if there was an area you could slip through, it would answer a lot of questions.
Right.
You know, the United States in 1940s made a ship disappear from the eastern shore up near, I think it was New York and New Jersey, and it showed up down south later. I mean, they made the entire ship leave.
Kind of like a teleport kind of thing.
Uh-huh. And there were some people on board the ship that suffered some really traumatic injuries or sickness or whatever. So it wasn't but you won't get the government to talk about that.
Right. But speaking of government and UFO files, just a few weeks ago, they really released some more. I don't know if you looked through any of those. I took some time and kind of looked at some of those videos, and there's nothing definitive there, but there is things moving around that's
there's lights in the sky
there's following them, and the motions they make. It's intriguing, and for the government to not know what it is, that's
worrisome.
Yeah.
Well, just like those so-called Chinese balloons. Why in the heck didn't you just shoot it down?
Right. That's what everybody was asking that question.
Or send some pilot up there and stick a hole in it or something. But it's almost like they know what it is, but they don't want to tell us, or we don't think we should understand. So I think there's different sides to all this,
right.
But I think they all are tied together. Right. Sasquatch really bothers me because, people had chased him all over the country.
Right.
And we had a guy here that was a Sasquatch hunter, and he had it on his van and everything. But we can find everything else in the world, but we can't find a 8-foot tall Sasquatch,
Right. I know. It is intriguing, and it's.
Yeah, I mean, so there's more questions than there are answers.
Yeah. Because
I asked the big shots. One was the president of the MUFON organization. I spoke in Arkansas at a conference out there. And I asked some of the big guys who were making the big money, I said, with all this information you folks have here, why haven't you solved this mystery? Oh, we still get $10,000 a night. We don't have to do that. I mean, they really didn't care.
Right.
I mean, they told me at that conference, a lady got up and said that they had an alien that they incorporated into a place in Oregon, a town, got him identity and everything. And he's living in Oregon right now, and he's an alien that was intermixed into our population.
Wow, that's just...
I'm saying, well, that ought to be easy to check out, wouldn't it?
Yeah, shouldn't somebody be able to verify that one? Yeah. So.
And her information came from a guy who helped set up his identity and got him a house and everything.
Yeah.
I'd love to go talk to the dude, you know.
Yeah. See what it's all about, right? See what he really is like.
You know, it just, like, I don't know have you ever read White Sands Incident?
No, I haven't.
Need to read that.
All right,
it was published in the 50s. A guy, he was at that conference, but he was stationed at that base. And while the other guys who went to see a movie, wasn't much else to do in town, he was just walking around the base, and he happened to walk in an area that wasn't probably where he should be. And he said he put a hand on some kind of ship, and it was red hot. He said, that makes sense. And he said, all of a sudden the door popped open, and a voice invited him to come in and sit down. That ship, he said, took him all over the country. Chicago, New York, everything, and showed him all these different things. Wasn't no pilot, wasn't nobody flying it, just him sitting in the seat. And took him all around the country, then brought him back and dropped him off.
Maybe a drone with artificial intelligence early on, right?
Well, that's...
I mean...
see, like, if you think about a Sasquatch, he's probably artificial intelligence. I mean, he's probably some guy they've created.
Yeah. Right.
So I've always said if one lands, and I've got to go check and see if it's got experimental with an E on it, and I'd have to see if I could pull the mask off the guy. I mean, I'm still, skeptical to the point where I'd want to say, show me what you got. You know?
Right. Well, that's interesting. Dan, I sure appreciate your time. I don't know how long we've been going through this. 1 hour? 1 hour, says the producer back there. So longer than I.
We should have given her one question.
Yeah.
I can ask a question.
What do you think about the UFOs?
What do I think?
Yeah.
I have no idea. I mean, I've always kind of agreed about the government thing, especially with Area 51. You don't know what technologies we have. So that's been kind of an explanation for me. Maybe it's some advanced technologies that the public just doesn't know about. But I find it interesting how you said the Pentagon didn't even know what it was.
They said they did, yes.
Yeah, they said they didn't, but then you said you had, those black cars following you, so who knows, really?
Well, see, they assumed, I think, that I knew something I didn't. Or might have known something that I didn't correlate.
Or maybe you dived into something that they didn't know about, and they were like, hey, what's this guy getting into?
And if they really don't know...
That's scary, too.
It is, because, they've had a few firefights, and the jets have lost.
I've seen some video, and I've heard pilots talk about that. Even back into the 30s and 40s. That they would see these unidentified crafts.
So, what do you think it is besides what you just said? Have you ever seen anything you didn't know what it was?
Not like that. No, I have not.
Now you've been to Area 51.
Yeah, well, we did go outside of it. That was pretty cool. I will say that whole area feels eerie. It feels weird.
It is.
Just because we're not used to being out in the middle of the desert, but...
Well, it's enough land out there to do what they want to. And most of it's underground. There's an underground facility in Mount Airy, North Carolina. It's in the field. It has no markings, has nothing. But Jack Fleming, who used to work here when he grew up as a kid, he remembered watching helicopters land in this field. Well-dressed people get out, go down the ground, and then the helicopter take off, and there would be no sign they'd ever been there.
Oh, wow.
But it's in one of those mountains right between Virginia and North Carolina. But there's apparently places like that all around the country.
Some that just like the Greenbrier Resort, was a bunker all them years, and nobody knew. I mean, I don't know how they pulled that one off, but they did up until somebody actually blew the cover on it in the I guess it was,
the mountain out here at Big Walker. There was a guy who was a truck driver from Nebraska. He swears that he came out to 77 and was showed a road up in the mountain. And the mountain came open with a big door. He drove his truck inside. They had him get out and get on a 4x4 and ride through the rest of the tunnel. They took his truck and unloaded it in the mountain. And when they brought it back to him, put him out, he was on Interstate 77 going north.
Huh. Well, that's you just never know. I've heard people who lived around the White Top area say they've seen things up there that they've attributed to military operations. I knew a guy that was a mountain man through and through. He spent most of his life just in the mountains, over in backside of Saltville, down in that area. And he told me it's been years ago that he was up there one day on top of a mountain, like he was like a billy goat. He'd just climb everywhere, and that's what he did. He was out looking for ginseng. He just got in the mountains. And he said he came up on top of a ridge he'd never been to before. And he said there was a concrete pad up there. And this is how he described it, He said that a man in an army uniform, that's what he said, walked up to me and told me I needed to leave. And this guy, he had no reason to tell that story for what it was. He told it for the truth, as they say. So you just never know what's out there for our protection, I guess. Well, maybe missile silos. bunkers. You just never know.
When they flew me to California to speak on Men in Black, I watched the ground, and there was numerous, I call metal building, setting out in desert rock with no roads. Now I don't know what that was about, but ever so often, and these were where there was no development, no roads, no helipad, nothing. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what they were for. There wasn't no electricity there, evident, and they were sitting out in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. Who's going to go out there and check?
You paid attention to that because what you've been going through back here in
Wytheville. Well, I watched all the way. I flew to Japan, 18 hours, and I watched all the way back and forth to see what I could see, and I never did see squat. One time I did see another 737 that was going this way, and they said there was probably 5 or 6 miles between us, but they said there's really not supposed to be that close a space for 2 passenger planes. But it's amazing. You get up there, and like the clouds are nothing. So these things I was seeing going up in clouds and disappearing, where are they going? Because the clouds are nothing.
Right. Yeah. And we had some experience like that when we were out there in near Area 51. We were driving along, and we were all looking up at the sky, and because that's what you're supposed to do when you go out there. You're supposed to be looking up at the sky. So we were, and then we saw these planes, these military, look like, I don't know what they look like military aircraft. They were coming, and then they turned, both of them, and they were going towards this mountain range. And I was watching, and I was like, well, if they don't pull up, they're going to run right into that mountain range. Well, as I was watching them, as soon as my mind thought that, they disappeared. I went, where did they go? And there was 6 of us in the vehicle. And I said, all right, I don't want anybody to say anything yet, because I know what I just saw, but I want you all to say at the exactly same time what you just saw happen. And it's like, we saw 2 airplanes go and then just disappear. So I had 5 other witnesses in the car to know. So maybe it was some kind of new stealth technology at the government. Maybe they're working on something that, I don't know, maybe they went to hypersonic mode and disappeared. I don't know, but it was cool to see.
There were 2 Chinooks over my mobile home in the Royal Tree. So I got my camera out, took pictures, 4 or 5. Never thought much about it. Developed the film, and there's nothing on the film. The Chinooks were never photographed. So there was some barrier that stopped my Canon AE-1 from picking up the image.
Wow. Maybe some sort of radio frequency or something. Blocked.
Who knows?
Who knows? Maybe we need that put on our license plate so we don't get these tickets when we go through these work zones with those cameras. Maybe figure that out. But anyways, it's been a pleasure, Danny G. And I appreciate you taking the time from your busy day to talk with us. And I know it's
most of my days morning up to about noontime, and then I usually go home and either watch my Yankees or take a nap.
So Yankees fan. So, but you have a book that you wrote not long after this occurred, and we talked about, you revised it, and it's called "Don't Look Up." Right? You wrote that with Bellinger. You wrote that together. Was it Bellinger? That's it. Dellinger. You guys wrote that together, and it's an interesting book. If you guys want to check it out, I know I got it off Amazon Kindle. You can download it there, or you can buy it. It's still out there, and it will tell you a lot more about what went on up here in Wytheville and Wythe County in 1987, 88 time, and that's 141 pages. So it's not a long read. You could read. I read it in 2 days. So it's a very interesting book. So check that out. We appreciate Danny G having us here at WYVE here in Wytheville. Appreciate them letting us come in here and do this. And so this has been Roots and Shadows, the Real Appalachia podcast, where every root tells a story and every shadow hides one. Thank you for listening to Roots and Shadows, the Real Appalachia podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider following the podcast and leaving a review. It really does help others discover these Appalachian stories. Until next time, I'm Kevin Austin, and remember, every root tells a story and every shadow hides one. As a reminder, these stories are drawn from public records, historical reporting, and conversations passed down through families, neighbors, and memories. Some names have been changed, and where the written record goes quiet, details have been carefully dramatized for storytelling.